Welcome to What to Watch Wednesdays, hosted by someone's favorite film buff, Nathan. I love movies and I want to share that with you. From old originals to cult classics and foreign favorites, along with straight up drivel, WWW is your place for all things movies. Stick around and we'll leave you with a movie to watch over the weekend with your family or that special someone. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. 88.1 The Burg, your Music Central. My name is Nathan. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. So, for those of you who follow The Burg on Instagram, you probably noticed that tonight's lineup is going to be a bit different. Normally here on What to Watch Wednesdays, I review movies. I love talking about movies so much. They're the thing I want to do with my life. I want to make movies as a career. But I figured, I can kind of mix things up a little bit. The show's called What to Watch. It's not like Monday Movie Madness or something like that. It's not like a movie-specific show because what to watch can kind of be defined in multiple different things. And so I figured, just to kind of ease out of the comfort zone just a little bit tonight, we're going to be taking a look at some TV shows instead of movies. Mostly because I'm interested to talk about TV shows. Let's see if we can keep it in a bite-sized form. But I'm also just... I think it's a fun little experiment to try, and if it doesn't work, oh well. I should also say that we did post a poll out there asking you guys if I should review TV shows, and the result was an overwhelming amount of people said yes, please go ahead and do it, and it was like, okay. Now I could say that by popular demand, I'm going to be reviewing TV shows tonight. It's a great excuse. So tonight we are going to be looking at The Big Bang Theory, the sitcom, not the scientific concept. Lost, which is not where I am currently. I'm not lost. I'm in a location. Please don't help me. I'm fine. I can find my way home. And Person of Interest, which is a show that I just name dropped and not everyone's going to recognize. But by the end of this show, let me tell you, you are going to know it like the back of your hand. I will rant about it. So stick around until after the break when we'll jump right into it. 88.1 The Burg, your Music Central. My name is Nathan. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. And for our first TV show on the watch list tonight, that's right, we're mixing it up with TV shows instead of movies. Our first show is The Big Bang Theory from 2007, with 12 seasons all available on Max today. I'm very excited to talk about this show. I should state right out the gate. Hey, that rhymes. I should state right out at the gate. I don't like this show at all. I really don't. And you might be asking, well, if you don't like it, why are you talking about it? Good news. It's the kind of show that I don't like to the point where I can rant about it and it's still going to be fun because I'm very impassioned about how much I don't like the show. I've seen the entirety of The Big Bang Theory. Pretty much. Like, the only thing I haven't seen is maybe one scene from the end of an episode during season 12. And at that point, it's just like, if I skipped out on one scene, who's gonna care? You sat through the entire thing. I did. I sat through the entire thing. Am I crazy? Yes, very much so. Because I didn't like the show after about season 6, and I still made myself watch it. And it's like, at that point, why am I complaining? I'm the one who forced this upon myself. But I don't know. It was lockdown. I had nothing better to do, and now looking back on it, I had many other things I could have watched instead of Big Bang Theory, but it was just like, I was already committed, so might as well keep going. But I will acknowledge that part of the reason I don't like the show is because I made myself finish it, and I've learned my lesson. I will never do that to myself again, because you shouldn't. The hot tip, don't force yourself to watch a show that you don't like. You can always not watch it. So I will admit that part of the reason I don't like the show is because of that. At the same time, I don't think people really realize how badly written this show is. Because I don't like the show, because even before I was even thinking about doing screenwriting or any type of film writing or TV writing, whatever, I wasn't even thinking about doing anything writing related in the media industry. And this show astonished me. at how bad the writing was. The characters all sucked. Sheldon Cooper is the worst written character I think I've seen on television. I do not like him. His actor, I don't care for at all, mostly because of his performance in Big Bang Theory. It's just, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but wow, did he not have a lot to work with in terms of making a likable, interesting character. I didn't like the character at the end of the show. He didn't deserve any connection or any, like, I couldn't describe any personal meaning or attachment to Sheldon Cooper by the end of the show. After 12 seasons, that's not good. And aside from the fact that this show was obviously made so CBS could just make a bunch of money off of the reruns and just airing it all the time because people loved it, why was there 12 seasons again? Why did they make 12 seasons? I don't understand that. As you can tell, because my voice is very high-pitched right now, I don't get why there was 12 seasons. It didn't need that many. You could have stopped at 10 at the maximum. 10 maximum of like 20 episode seasons. Like that's the thing too. My biggest complaint is just like how many episodes are in the seasons. I get that that's how TV works, but like it was up to like, I think about 24 to 25 to maybe even like 27 in a season. Like that's a lot to sit through. You're sitting through basically like an entire day's worth of TV show of a horribly written garbage pile of nonsense that was the Big Bang Theory. And I personally don't even like hate it because it's popular. I'm just the only thing that has to do with this review and it being popular is just the fact that like it's easy to review because I don't have to tell you guys the premise of it. You guys all know the premise. It's about nerds doing nerdy things and being wacky nerds. No, it's just them referencing random garbage. It's just like, no. This was clearly written by someone who doesn't understand what being a nerd is. Because nerds don't talk as much as these characters do. They never shut up. They never do. The one character I had any hope for actually liking at the end was the character Raj. And the second he learned how to talk in front of women, I just didn't like him. He said such awful things and he was just horribly written. None of my animosity for the show projects onto the actors or actresses involved in it. It's just that the writing is just so incredibly horrid. They didn't put any care into character development or growth because it's a sitcom. You can have character development, but most of the time they just don't. That's how sitcoms work. They're just meant to be eaten every week as your dessert after dinner, and people don't care, and they shouldn't. But could you maybe have not wasted my time? I wasted my time once again, I admit it, but it was still a waste. And we'll get into another thing that I really don't like the show for, but I think I've talked well enough. You understand exactly why I do not like the Big Bang Theory. I do not think it should be popular. And just to like put the icing on the cake, I did review I did rate the show on IMDb. It's got like a 9 out of 10 out of like a million reviews. I gave it 1 star. I had to do justice for myself because such a wasted lockdown. So many hours. Come back after the break. Well, we'll talk about a show that I actually didn't hate to watch every second of, which will be Lost. Stick around for that. 88.1 The Burg, your Music Central. My name is Nathan. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. And for our second show on the watch list tonight, we will be taking a look at Lost from 2004. With 6 seasons, all available on Prime, quote-unquote free edition. If you look it up on Google, it'll show you like, it's on Prime for free. That just means you have to watch ads. And funnily enough, that was honestly my biggest complaint when watching this show, is that I had to sit through like a 2-minute ad by IMDb, and it's just like, guys, I just want to watch the TV show. Can you please just let me watch the TV show? But that's not important. Lost, this show is very critically acclaimed. It often shows up on like the list of best TV shows out there. And unlike Big Bang Theory, I totally get why. This show, especially its first season, is very well written in comparison to Big Bang Theory. I personally thought, wow, this writing is off the chain. And like the directing of each episode and just how they sort of set it up, like everything was on point. Part of it was just because they had a big budget. They had big name J.J. Abrams attached to it from the very beginning, but it felt like it had a direction. And I feel like I should also explain the premise because it's not one that I feel like has been talked about, I guess, to the point of oversaturation, because it's usually just kind of the point. It's kind of a laughing stock these days just because of how it ended. But like from the beginning, it definitely had the potential. So for those of you not familiar, Lost is a show about people on an airplane who crash land on an island. And at first it just feels like they're trying to survive. It's just Survivor, but scripted. And then it turns out that there's some weird bunkers on the island. There's a lot of weird artifacts everywhere. There's weird noises in the trees. And they have to figure out, what's the mystery that the island is keeping from us? There's something in these woods. There's something in the air. Something's not right here. There are people that keep showing up. We don't know who they are. And that's a good way to kind of start off with it, because after that, it like escalates to incredibly high heights. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes very bad. But I guess the biggest thing about the show is that, like, even the first season was very good, but then you look at it and you go, of course, they had to ruin it by making the mystery weird and complex. But the first 3 seasons are just are amazing. They are amazing. Like, I know I said first season, first 3. The other 2, like 2, very good. 3, still very good. I believe I even was like bursting out in tears near the end of season 3. Like it was very good. And I'm not necessarily one who cries very easily when watching stuff. There's only been about 3 times that I've cried watching a movie, and one of them was The Iron Giant. So I'm both an easy and a difficult person to make cry, but it's just like when a TV show makes you cry, that's something else. That was something else to me at the time. It hit a nerve. It hit a nerve, and it held on to that until season 6, where it messed everything up. But, I would still give, if you haven't seen the show at all and you've like only heard of it in talks somewhere, I'd recommend watching the first 3 seasons and maybe even just stopping there, because you might actually get a very fun experience out of it. Although it does come with the caveat of part of the driving factor of the show is the fact that the mystery of the island is what keeps you coming back to watch it. And if you stop at season 3, you probably won't get the answer to it. But don't worry about it. You don't actually want to know the final answer to all of your questions. And a lot of people, when watching the show, when the finale aired, a lot of people didn't want to know. They didn't like the answer they got. They very much hated what happened with the ending. At least some of them did. Some of them absolutely loved the ending. And that's the thing. This show is famous more. It's not just famous because it was like a revolutionary thing around 2004 with its big budget and its massive cast of people. Like the primary cast is like around 10 to 15 people you're going to be following throughout the course of the show. Like, that's a big cast and a big amount of people to write for, to have each character be nuanced in some way. And they pull it off flawlessly for the first 3 seasons. And it's just, it is interesting to kind of look back on the fact that the show is also remembered for its ending, because a lot of big time shows out there have had horrible endings. And a lot of ones that are super popular, the big ones would be Game of Thrones and The Sopranos, but Lost falls into that category all the time. People always talk about this ending either being very, very good or very, very bad. It's very polarizing. Either you fall on one side or the other if you're a hardcore Lost fan. And I was kind of a hardcore Lost fan because I watched the entire show and I really liked it. But when I got to the end of it, I was like, I think if anyone asked me, I'd fall right in the middle. And it's like, oh, that's a funny hypothetical, Nathan. When are you going to just get into a casual conversation about Lost? It's just like, oh, I thought the ending was just mediocre. And then they go, what? I thought it was bad. Or what? I thought it was good. And you get my point. I oddly fall kind of in the middle because I think from a story perspective, it's very weird. And I can understand why people felt very cheated out of the answer. Like the answer that they got kind of felt like they were cheating because they kept saying, no, that's not the answer to the mystery. Okay, it kind of is, but we just didn't want to tell you guys that you got it because we're clever writers and we don't understand that like people can predict something even if it's well written. Like me, when I'm watching something, I can still think a show or a movie is well written, even if I know what's going to happen at the end. I could still think they didn't seem to wrap their heads around that idea. They didn't seem to wrap their heads around the idea that people would still be happy with the writing if it was going exactly where they wanted it to go. So on that hand, I get it. On the other hand, I think the episodes, it's a 2-part finale, so it's episodes. It's well directed and they really pulled it off in terms of pacing and kind of making it all sort of wrap up in the end. Not that the answers were good. It's just that like there's a good structure there that if it hadn't gone to absolute faff, it probably would have ended on a very high note and not as like infamous as it has become. So I got to give him credit for that. And so I guess that's all I have to say about Lost. I would recommend watching the first 3 seasons or at least thinking about it because you may not get the answers to your mystery, but it'll be something else. It's an unforgettable television experience for many, many reasons. So that's all I have to say about Lost. Coming back after the break, we'll be looking at a show that I very much like called Person of Interest. So stick around for that. 881 The Burg, your Music Central. My name is Nathan. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. And for our last TV show on the watch list tonight, we are going to be taking a look at Person of Interest from 2011 with 5 seasons, all available on the free Prime thing. It's just with ads. And I don't watch it there with ads because I don't like ads. You can't blame me. YouTube has made me not like ads. But this is an interesting show to talk about because I ranted a lot about how I didn't like The Big Bang Theory, and I talked about Lost, which I thought was very good in the first couple of seasons, and then kind of drifted off, and I was just like, the ending was just okay. I'm kind of in the middle there, so it's not like a favorite of mine, but it's one that I did like for a while. This show is on the entire other end of the spectrum, where you might be asking, oh, if he talks about a show he didn't like and a show that he did kind of like, is he going to talk about a show that he loves? Yes, he is. This is my #1 favorite TV show of all time. I love Person of Interest so very much. So very much. It is so incredible and deserves to be talked about more. Why isn't it talked about more? It is underrated. It should be talked about to heaven and back. And I'm going to attempt to do that in the next 7 minutes. So buckle up. So, Person of Interest is the premise, a statement to kind of condense it down for you guys, since you probably haven't seen the show, and you should. I would highly recommend it, even right out the gate. I'm so excited for this that I can't even resist. I can't resist not telling you guys. So, I can't resist recommending it. So, Person of Interest follows this ex-CIA agent by the name of John Reese, who teams up with a massive billionaire who is this very secretive guy. It's basically like if Bill Gates did his thing and then faked his death and people thought he was gone forever. That's the basis of this character by the name of Harold Finch, like a bird's eye view. And that's a funny joke for people who've seen the show, because Finch's whole deal is that he created this massive artificial intelligence to predict acts of terror and make sure that the CIA and all the world governments can jump in and make sure it can be stopped. They want to make sure that no big acts of terror happen. And then there's the numbers. What do the numbers mean? Well, in interest of the greater good, with heavy air quotes, they designed this machine to filter out people who are going to commit a massive act of terror and the people who aren't going to commit a massive act of terror. And they have the social security numbers of the people who are involved in petty crimes. Like they might actually still die, or maybe they're about to kill someone, but their numbers are just kind of filtered off to the side because they're not important to national security. And Finch, his mind racing, he goes, what if we did a whole vigilante thing where we save the people who aren't like relevant to national security, so that we don't have to kind of blame ourselves for letting people slip by, for the interest of the greater good that we created this machine for? Why not just use it for overall good? That seems like a good idea. You know what? I'll just enlist an ex-CIA agent to do it, because he'll probably be on board. If he's ex-CIA, he's very much tired of the greater good argument. So that's just kind of the basic skeleton of the show. I'm just so very excited, so that might explain why I'm not perfect at explaining the premise. It is also kind of an involved one. It does require a bit of investment. It's not one that you can explain in one single sentence, which is kind of a drawback, but also not, because I love it. So I'm biased, and I don't think this show has any drawbacks. Not really. I do think there are drawbacks to everything, but I'm more lenient just because of how much I love this show. The biggest reason this show is so good, in my opinion, and just in general, I think like from an objective standpoint, this show is still good and still relevant. Like, you could watch it today, and I know it came out in 2011, so it's only 13 years old in comparison to like Lost, which is like 20 years old. It's like, well, why would I watch it today? It's about an AI that predicts acts of terror and then sorts out people who are not relevant to national security, and can predict when there's going to be a crime committed by them or to them. It can predict murders. It can see everything. It can tap into our surveillance systems. It can listen into your phones. It can track you. This is the thing they programmed for the show. And in 2024, the idea of an all-powerful AI doesn't necessarily seem like a very fictitious idea anymore, does it? This doesn't feel like something that is just outside the realm of science fiction. This isn't like, I don't know, hyperspeed, where you literally can't jump to like the speed of light because your body's not built for it. No, I think world domination AI is not necessarily a far away thing in terms of our current climate. And if any AI overlords are listening, I'm joking right now. Please don't come after me, AI. I'm joking. I'm not being serious. Aside from all that joking around and waffling about, I will say my like biggest praise I can give this show is that it mixes its genre so seamlessly. Oh dear. No, seamlessly mixes its genres. This show is part spy action thriller. It's part gangster drama. It's part police procedural, and it's part highbrow sci-fi. If you like any of those genres, I cannot recommend Person of Interest to you enough, because you are going to get your fill in one of those areas. And it's either going to be like, you're going to be like, oh, this is pretty good, or it's going to be like, oh, this is like more than halfway decent in each of those areas, because it doesn't have to be like amazing at all of those parts. You can't throw in all four of those genres and expect it to be perfect at all of them, but you can expect it to do a very decent job. Like, the achievement is that it's a decent job at all of them. It does a very good job with each of them, to the point where you go, okay, it's worth watching just to see how they mix it all up. And there are so many twists and turns throughout the show that it keeps you coming back. And if I haven't sold it enough to you why I love this show so very much, aside from the acting, the music, the camera work, the entirety of the story and premise, and like way the show's written, everything about it, like only minor complaints like the sound mixing being bad because they're outside in New York City on like Times Square. That's not good enough. Oh no. Aside from all of those complaints, anything, all of those being nitpicks, I think I could sell this to you with just a couple more words. And that is the fact that this show was created by the brother of Christopher Nolan, Jonathan Nolan. Yes, the man who made Oppenheimer last year, his brother made a TV show, and it's called Person of Interest. I'd highly recommend it. I've been talking about it for 8 minutes now. If that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. So, that obviously is the weekend recommendation in comparison to Big Bang Theory and Lost. I'd highly recommend Person of Interest. And speaking of our weekend watch, I will say this weekend I will be talking about more TV shows. I will also be going more in depth about Person of Interest, and I will probably talk a little bit more about Lost. I will give the kind of big spoiler about why it's not a good ending. And if I talk about Big Bang Theory, I think my brain will start to hurt, so I probably won't talk about it. But I will also be recommending a couple other shows that I really, really like. So tune in this Saturday from 9 to 11, where I'll be going over it with a host that was on last weekend. For those of you who listen in regularly, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, tune in for the surprise. And for other kind of quick things, the show does have an Instagram account. It is at What to Watch Wednesdays. Follow us there. And thank you for listening in. Be sure to tune back in next Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. here on 88.1 The Burg.